Several months ago, I was scrolling through Instagram when I came across a post from Soma with an alternative handlebar that caught my eye. The main portion looked like a normal mountain bike flat bar, but welded to each end was another bar at a pretty strong angle with a section up front that curved upwards. It looked like something I would definitely be interested in using, and as I read on, I learned it was called the Siskiyou bar, made by Steve Potts. Now, if that name doesn't sound too familiar to you, you may want to brush up on your mountain biking history. His influence in the industry is a long one, spanning from the Marin County mountain bike origins to a founding member of WTB to induction into the Mountain Bike Hall of Fame. He's basically been around since the beginning and now has his own shop where he makes frames and components in titanium and steel. After a couple of emails and a phone call or two, Steve sent me the Siskiyou bars along with two others he wanted me to try out. It's been a few months now, and in this video, I'm going to talk about what I think of them. Along with the Siskiyou bar that had originally caught my eye, Steve sent the camper bar and his original dirt drop bar. I ended up using these across a few different bikes and even got to test the Siskiyou and camper bars out on snow. This multi-bike approach proved to be really helpful in understanding the design and intended use of each bar. So now let's get into the specs of each bar and talk about what I think of them. The camper bar was inspired by Steve's own 27.5 Plus bike. That bike started as a collaboration with the guys at Monkey Wrench Cycles as a bike for having fun on some quick overnighters more than setting records on big bike packing trips. The bars reflect that design with a good amount of back sweep at 18 degrees, 38 millimeters of rise, and a narrow by modern standards 740 mil width. One thing I noticed about these bars before even putting them on is how well made and good looking they are. It's something that makes perfect sense considering they're produced by Nitto, a manufacturer renowned for their quality. The bars are made from aluminum, which makes them decently light and come in either black or silver. I ran these on two different fat bikes on both dirt and in varying snow conditions. The amount of rise you'll like on your bars is going to depend on the bike you're riding, but for mine it was basically perfect. Both bikes have a stack number that's on the lower side, and these bars put me in a more relaxed position on flatter terrain and a better attack position on steep descents. My favorite part about the bar though is the amount of sweep. 18 degrees sounds like a lot, but as someone who uses Jones bars on a regular basis, it's really not. What it does do though is put your wrists and hands in a pretty comfortable position while still retaining your typical flat bar fitment and feel. It feels really natural and comfortable in technical terrain and even on tight switchbacks, one of the main scenarios where really swept-back bars are a struggle. I was a little worried the width was going to be an issue since I don't think I've run anything under 760 in a few years, but these must be playing some kind of trick because they feel much wider than advertised. They're comfortable for taking it slow or riding for a long time, but they've got you a little more upright and they're wide enough that you can handle when things get a little bit technical or you just want to have some fun. Overall, this bar was the biggest surprise of the three. I viewed it as just another flat bar and didn't think I'd have much to say on it. When I was talking with Steve at the end of the review period and he asked me what my favorite bar was, I responded the camper bar without any hesitation. On the other end of the spectrum is the original dirt drop bar. As you may know, I'm one of those people that thinks drop bars and dirt are like oil and water, except in the tamest of dirt situations. I've never felt comfortable on them in any sort of steep or technical terrain and think they're best suited for the road. That said, dirt drops and Steve Potts go way back, so when you get some of the first production drop bars meant for dirt, you should probably try them out. My salsa cutthroat was set up with flat bar components, so after some swapping and brake bleeding, I had the drop bars set up. I first used the stem I already had on there, which had worked fine with some other drop bars in the past, but while fine-tuning the rotation and shifter position, I knew I needed a lot more rise. Modern gravel and dirt-oriented drop bars tend to be wide with moderate reach and a fairly shallow drop. While these have been updated slightly to better fit modern shifters, their reach and drop numbers are more reflective of the time in which they were originally designed. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing. In fact, I think it makes them a great candidate for turning a 90s mountain bike into a gravel or all-terrain bike. That's not what the Cutthroat is though, so while I did use them for a couple of rides, it wasn't even long enough for my shipment of bar tape to arrive. If I had an older mountain bike and some drop bar components to use with these, I think I would have enjoyed them a lot more, even considering my apathy toward drops in general. If you do throw it on one of those older mountain bikes, they'll also probably make other people envious of your super sweet build, since these bars and that old bike were probably designed around the same time, and retro's always cool, right? Now let's talk about the bar that brought about this whole thing to begin with, the Siskiyou. In case you were wondering where the name comes from, because I know I was, it's the name of a mountain range in Northern California near where Steve has set up shop. When I spoke with him, he said the bar has a focus on comfort, but he still wanted it to be a little bit more balanced with capability, and I think the width and back sweep reflect that. Coming in at 760 millimeters wide and with a back sweep of 30 degrees, it's right in the middle ground of mountain bike width, while still putting your wrists at a really comfortable angle that isn't so extreme that you notice it in those tight sections. It also has distinctive horns on the front, which curve up slightly and give you an additional hand position for comfort or when you want to get more aerodynamic. I used it on both my Cutthroat and on my fat bike, which gave me a pretty wide range of experience with it. It's a tad on the wider side for tamer stuff like gravel riding, but that's one reason the horns are so nice. If you feel like you're catching all of that wind, throw your hands up on the front and you'll feel nice and tucked in while still being surprisingly comfortable. I found the width to be great on the trails though. They aren't as wide as I normally run, but I think it'd feel awkward at 780 or 800 with the amount of back sweep that it has. That back sweep is really comfortable on your hands and wrists, but it doesn't come back as far as, say, the Jones bars, so you don't feel like it's going to come into your leg or your hip on switchbacks. The horns weren't as useful in these riding situations, but I did use them a couple times on some connector roads between trails, which was kind of nice. I think many people would compare these to the Molokos due to the similar sweep and width numbers and the horns up front. I'd consider the Siskiyous maybe a lighter version of that bar for a few reasons. First off, they're physically lighter than the Molokos due to the tubing type and how much of it's needed. They're also missing the distinctive loop, which is nice for bags on long trips, but for around town or single day rides can be a bit overkill. The Siskiyous also feel more natural on single track due to the less swept back and overall wider hand position. I had Molokos for a while, and while I loved them, I don't really have the time to tour or go on extended bike packing trips right now, so I probably would have bought these instead had I known they existed. Probably the only thing I wish was different about these bars is that they had a little bit of rise. That's again going to depend on the bike that you're putting them on, but if you're generally happy with the amount of stack you have, or maybe you have a stem that has a good amount of rise on it, then you're not even going to care. The Siskiyou bar also comes in both titanium and chromoly, black or silver, and in a couple of clamp sizes. So if you're looking to mount it on an older bike, or you just want a certain aesthetic, you've got options. Steve Potts is known to be a bit of a perfectionist, and I think it's evident in the extremely high quality and the great design of these bars. While I might never buy the dirt drops due to my personal preferences, I'd for sure consider the Siskiyou and the Camper bar for their versatility, comfort, and good looks. Before getting these in, I'd used a lot of different bars, from high-end carbon Envy bars to Amazon specials, and I never felt like I could really tell much of a difference in the quality. To be honest, I can't pinpoint anything specifically on why these look and feel so nice, but they just do. So if you're in the market for high-quality bars with really great designs, go check out Steve Potts' website, especially if you're into the titanium side of things, or go look at one of the many retailers that stocks his products in chromoly or aluminum. Thanks again to Steve for sending these out for review. If there's another handlebar, component, or even a full-on bike you'd like to see me review, please let me know down in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and share it, and subscribe if you want to see more of them. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.